The town of Maplewood had always been quiet at night, but tonight it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Soft yellow lights glowed from porch lamps along Main Street. The old oak trees whispered gently as a breeze passed through them, and somewhere far away a train horn sounded, long, low, and steady. It was the kind of night people remembered years later and said, that was when everything changed. Inside the small white house at the edge of town, Emma Carter stood in front of a mirror she had known her whole life and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her hair, usually tied up in a careless bun or braid, fell in loose waves over her shoulders. The dress she wore was simple, ivory and soft, chosen not for drama but for comfort. Still, her hands trembled slightly as she smoothed the fabric over her waist. Married. The word felt unreal, like a secret she was still learning how to say out loud. Behind her, the bedroom door opened quietly. Ethan didn't speak at first. He just stood there, his hand still on the doorknob, his heart pounding so loudly he was sure she could hear it. He had seen Emma in 1,000 moments, laughing in the summer sun, bundled up in winter coats, crying quietly on his shoulder during hard years, but this version of her made his breath catch painfully in his chest. She turned slowly when she sensed him. Their eyes met, and for a second, neither of them moved. "Hi," she said softly, her voice shy in a way it hadn't been all day. His lips curved into a smile that was pure wonder. "Hi, wife." Her cheeks flushed instantly, the color spreading from her ears to her smile. "Husband," she replied, testing the word like something fragile and precious. Ethan stepped inside and closed the door behind him, not to shut the world out, but to hold this moment in. The house was quiet now, the guests gone, the laughter faded, the congratulations folded into memory. It was just them, finally. "I feel like I don't know what to do with my hands," Emma confessed with a small, nervous laugh. He chuckled softly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Same. I keep thinking someone's gonna knock and tell us we're not allowed to be alone yet." She smiled, then grew thoughtful. "We waited so long." They had. Maplewood had watched them grow up side by side, best friends turned something more but not quite. Everyone knew, everyone whispered, but life had been complicated. Responsibilities, timing, fear. Loving each other quietly felt safer than risking everything. Until today. Ethan crossed the room slowly, as if sudden movement might break the spell. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him, the familiar scent of soap and cedarwood that had always meant home. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Emma nodded. "I'm just overwhelmed, in a good way, like my heart doesn't know how to calm down." His eyes softened. "Mine's been racing since I saw you walk down the aisle." She laughed softly. "You cried." "I did not." "You absolutely did." "Okay, maybe a little." She reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing his sleeve. The contact sent a quiet shiver through them both. They froze again, surprised by how different even the smallest touch felt now. Allowed, chosen, ours. Ethan lifted his hand slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but she didn't. His palm rested against her cheek, warm and steady, his thumb brushing lightly along her jaw. Emma leaned into the touch before she even realized she was doing it. "I've wanted to do that," he murmured, "for years." Her eyes filled, though she smiled. "Me too." Their first kiss as husband and wife wasn't rushed or dramatic. It was gentle, familiar, like coming back to a place they had both dreamed of but never dared to enter fully. When they parted, their foreheads rested together, breaths mingling. "We don't have to do anything tonight," Ethan said quietly. "We can just be." Emma nodded, relieved by the tenderness of the offer. "I'd like that. I just want to stay in this feeling for a while." He smiled. "Then come sit with me." They moved to the edge of the bed, fingers intertwined now, no hesitation left in that simple act. Emma leaned into his shoulder, her head fitting perfectly beneath his chin as if it had always belonged there. The clock ticked softly on the wall. Outside, the town slept. "I kept imagining this," Emma admitted. "Not this room exactly, just us, knowing we don't have to hide anymore." Ethan pressed a kiss into her hair. "I used to drive past this house late at night and wonder if you were awake too." "I was," she whispered. They shared a quiet laugh, tinged with something emotional and sweet. Years of unsaid things hovered between them, but for once they didn't feel heavy. They felt complete. Emma shifted slightly, turning to face him. Her hand rested over his heart. "It's really ours now," she said. "This life." He covered her hand with his. "Ours, finally." Their smiles were soft, unguarded, no longer restrained by fear or waiting or timing, just two people who had loved patiently and been rewarded with a moment that felt impossibly right. Ethan stood and offered his hand. "Come on, let's get comfortable." She took it, her fingers trusting and warm. As the lights dimmed and the night settled deeper around them, there was no rush, no urgency, only the quiet magic of being exactly where they were meant to be, together.
The night unfolded slowly, like something precious neither of them wanted to rush. Emma sat on the bed while Ethan moved around the room, switching off the remaining lights until only the soft glow of a lamp remained. Shadows settled gently along the walls, making everything feel warmer, closer, like the world had shrunk down to just this room and the two hearts inside it. When he turned back to her, she was watching him with a small, shy smile. "What?" he asked, amused. "I was just thinking," she said softly, "how strange it is that we've known each other our whole lives, and yet tonight feels like meeting you all over again." He sat beside her, close enough that their knees touched. "I feel that too, like there's this new layer to everything. Same us, new meaning." She nodded, then laughed quietly. "I keep wanting to say 'my husband' out loud just to make it real." "Go ahead," he encouraged. She hesitated, then whispered, "My husband." Something deep in Ethan's chest shifted. He reached for her hand again, weaving their fingers together. "And you," he said just as softly, "are my wife." The words settled between them, heavy and beautiful. They talked then about small things, about memories from childhood, about moments they'd both secretly held close over the years. Emma told him about the night she'd realized she loved him and cried because she thought it would never happen. Ethan confessed how he'd almost left town once just to protect his heart, and how the thought of not seeing her every day had stopped him. Each confession brought them closer, peeling away the last quiet walls that waiting had built. At some point, Emma leaned forward and rested her head against his chest. His arm came around her naturally, holding her there, his hand tracing slow, reassuring patterns along her back. "This feels safe," she murmured. "It is," he promised. "You're safe with me, always." The words weren't dramatic, they didn't need to be. They were steady and real, shaped by years of proving rather than promising. Time blurred after that. There were soft kisses on her forehead, her temple, her cheek. There was laughter when nerves bubbled up again, when one of them felt suddenly shy for no clear reason at all. There was tenderness in every movement, like they were both aware this was something sacred. Eventually, they lay down side by side, the covers drawn up around them. Emma faced him, her fingers lightly holding the edge of his shirt, as if grounding herself in the fact that he was really there. "You know," she said quietly, I used to imagine this night would feel overwhelming, like everything would happen at once." "And?" he asked. She smiled. "It feels peaceful, like my heart finally exhaled." Ethan brushed his thumb beneath her eye where emotions shimmered. "That might be my favorite thing you've ever said." They fell asleep like that, close, comfortable, wrapped in the quiet certainty of belonging. Morning came gently. Sunlight slipped through the curtains, pale and gold, landing softly across the bed. Emma stirred first, half awake, warm and content in a way she'd never known before. For a few seconds she was disoriented, until she realized she wasn't alone. Ethan lay beside her, still asleep, his arm draped loosely around her waist. Her husband. The realization sent a flutter through her chest, light and almost giddy. She shifted slightly, just enough to turn and look at him properly. His face was relaxed now, the seriousness he carried in waking hours softened with sleep. She smiled to herself, memorizing this version of him. As if sensing her gaze, Ethan stirred. His eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then found her. For a moment, he just looked at her. Then he smiled. "Good morning," he said, voice still low and rough with sleep. She laughed softly. "Good morning." They lay there in silence for a few seconds, neither of them moving, both of them smiling like they'd just been let in on the best secret in the world. "Did you sleep okay?" he asked. "I slept happily," she replied, for the first time in a long time. He pulled her a little closer, pressing a kiss to her hair. "Me too." The morning felt unhurried. There was no schedule, no expectations, just the quiet joy of waking up together and knowing this wasn't a temporary moment. It was the beginning of a lifetime of mornings like this. Eventually, they got up. Emma slipped into one of Ethan's shirts, the fabric hanging loosely on her frame. He watched her with open fondness, shaking his head a little. "What?" she asked, catching him staring. "Nothing," he said, "just thinking how unreal this still feels." They made coffee together in the small kitchen, bumping into each other, laughing when they reached for the same mug. Emma leaned against the counter while Ethan poured the coffee, and he stole a quick kiss that made her blush like a teenager. "Ethan," she whispered, smiling, "we're married. You don't have to sneak kisses anymore." He grinned. "I know, but I think I like sneaking them anyway." They carried their mugs outside and sat on the porch steps, watching Maplewood wake up. The town looked the same as it always had, quiet streets, familiar houses, but to Emma, everything felt different, brighter. She rested her head on Ethan's shoulder, her fingers wrapped around her warm cup. "Do you think everyone can tell?" she asked. "Tell what?" "That we're ridiculously happy." He laughed. "If they can't, they're not paying attention." She smiled, then grew thoughtful. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For waiting, for choosing me, for loving me the way you do." Ethan turned to face her fully. He took her face gently in his hands, looking at her with the same certainty he'd felt all night. "There was never anyone else," he said. "There was just time, and now it's finally ours." Emma's eyes filled again, but this time with nothing but joy. She leaned forward, kissing him slowly, openly, without fear or hesitation. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "Ours, finally," she whispered. And as the sun rose higher over the small American town that had watched them grow, their story, patient, tender, and deeply rooted, began its next chapter. Together.